Hey guys, welcome to the Filling Pieces Summer School. My name is Ron Simpson. I'm a creative entrepreneur and your host for today. And we will be discussing brand activism, something that's really a discussion going on right now because it's no longer just about making money if you start a company or a business. It's about way more. You need to do good, you need to stand for something, and character and personalization is something that we actually want to see right now in this new climate. And to talk about this, we have really cool experts, brand activists, all kinds of really cool things, all creatives, of course, sitting here to talk about it with you tonight. Let's start in the back, please. Introduce yourself and tell everyone who you are.
I'm Akaar Amin, and I'm the co-founder of Lack of Guidance, which is a clothing brand that evolves around the world of football.
Nice.
So that's me.
It's been an interesting day for you today if you are in the world of football.
Exactly.
I think it got a little bit messy. Don't worry. Sorry for that.
I try to stay out of it.
I get that. Please introduce yourself.
I'm Willa Stoutenbeek, and I'm the founder and creative director of W Green. We are a branding and communication agency running for 11 years, and since the get-go we were focused only on working with sustainable brands, and our motto is ethics and aesthetics. So
Ethics and aesthetics.
Yes.
I like that. That sounds like a shirt.
Yep. We have those.
You have those.
Call
yeah,
me.
I need to get me one of those. That's dope. Hello, my friend.
Hello,
Please tell the world.
who I am. I'm Gianni Grot. I'm one of the founders of Omroep Zwart, Broadcasting Network Black, with my partner in crime, Akwasi Uzu Ansa, and I'm one of the directors in the company.
Dope.
Cheers.
Well, that's all there is to know. So, yeah, if you're wondering anything about me, like what is a creative entrepreneur, I'm one of the founders behind The Avocado Show and probably one of the biggest and earliest fans of Filling Pieces in the world. So that's
You're
why I
wearing
get...
Nikes.
Yes. No, I was like, I can't. It's like, you know how you can't wear certain things when you go see certain people? Like, I try not to wear Filling Pieces when I go to Guillaume's house.
Yeah.
I don't want to, I am a super fan, but you don't want to be...
Same thing with artists, right? You don't want to put their music on when
Yeah,
they're
just
there.
step in the car, you're like, hey, I'm bumping your shit. Nah, it doesn't work that way. So my brand activism tells me I should just, also wear other brands and switch it up for a day. But to start off, like we're talking about and discussing this thing called brand activism. If you've never heard about it, if you don't know what it is, how would you explain it and what does it mean to you? Let's start with Johnny.
Well, brand activism is when a brand stands for their values and they focus on social change, and that can be around different topics, from climate change to racial injustice, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, take Ben & Jerry's, for instance. They stand for something on their website as well. They stand for their values, and when something happens in the world that doesn't resonate with their values, they act on that.
So it's not aligned, then they
So
they use their power to speak.
Right? And to change, but also to inspire and influence people to stand for their values and help them change the world for the better.
Okay. What is brand activism to you? What is it?
Yeah, I mean, it's very similar, but I think for me, what I find very interesting in these days is that you see a lot of brand activism, aka woke washing, aka greenwashing, aka there's a lot of pink washing, whatever you want to call it. So there's a very thin line between performative and as well as intrinsically motivated brand activism. And I think it is sometimes now very difficult because everyone is, doing, talking the talk, walking the walk, doing all the checks, but then it's really, I think sometimes difficult also for consumers to find out what is real and what isn't real.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I think it's really great if a brand stands for something, but then it's also great if it also is represented within their board, represented in the choices they make within the company, and not just, in their campaigns or.
Activism is for,
of course.
I'm guessing, right?
Well, but I mean, yeah.
There's like the big four, obviously, but there's also other things you could stand behind as a brand or feel very strongly about, I'm guessing, right?
Yeah, but I think, okay. But I think there's still a lot of brands who want to check all the boxes, and then I think it's great if those boxes then are also represented within your company culture at least.
Definitely, yeah. So what I think you're saying is that there's a lot of businesses who use brand activism as a tool to get something else that they want. So whether it's attention or change of perspective or whatever, instead of trying to achieve something within the activism.
One example that I'm just going to drop, you drop Ben & Jerry's, but like Nike, I have to say I've been a Nike fan forever, but you know, they've of course, they've done a lot of things around Black Lives Matter, which is amazing, but then at the same time, they just pulled back a contract of a black athlete, a woman, a runner, because of her pregnancy, or at least they were, you know, not going to drop her completely, but they were going to cut her back for like 80% or something, or 70%. Yeah. Those kinds of things. I mean, that's, you know, so on the front end, they're promoting Colin Kaepernick kneeling, but on the back end, there's also stuff going down that really doesn't match with what they present to the outside world, and I think that's a big problem.
Do you think, because me looking from like a business perspective, I think business changes a lot. I think a lot of people start a business, right? A little startup or your own idea or whatever, which means you are in total control of things. You get a little bit bigger, it might be that you add partners or investors, you get a little bit bigger, you're not in the room anymore, and so you can't really always be the pioneer, the frontier of what your company is doing. Do you think by now it's actually the other way around, that the consumers and the fans or whatever type of target group there is are demanding brands to participate in this activism, even though like the board or whoever is not even focused on it? Maybe they're trying to save the company or get funded or whatever. How does that work for you guys? Let me ask you.
Yeah, I think in this day and age it's more so like in a restaurant where like the customer is king. So I mean, in the end, the consumers have the money and they buy your product. So if the consumer holds value to brand activism and where a brand stands in a discussion, like for example, Black Lives Matter, if the song you're singing isn't really something they want to hear, I mean, they're not going to support your company anymore. So that's also a way for companies to spread a message that a lot of consumers want to hear. And I don't know if it's always genuine, but I mean, it's kickstarting something. So.
Let's say you're watching and you're interested in this and you're like, okay, brand activism, that's cool. I want my company to stand for something. I want to do this. We've seen it across the market, could be fashion, could be anything else, of people doing it the wrong way, right? Like where you get the feeling that it's not authentic, where it's some type of washing or everything.
Well, you're talking about pinkwashing, greenwashing. Yeah.
Can we just be short and clear about when you should and when you shouldn't do it, and how do you recognize something that is real and good, and how do you recognize something that isn't?
That's a really good question. I think it's good when it's authentic, when it's integrated into the culture of the company, not necessarily a one-off thing, not necessarily incidental. So again, back to the values. If you stick to your values, it'll be authentic, and then it's you who moves towards social injustice or whatever the cause that you're trying to fight for, or your brand is trying to fight for. So that's the way you should do it, and not just the incidental because it's a hype. You jump on the hype, and when something else is a hype, you jump on the other hype. Because you lose credibility if you do that as well.
Yeah, I understand. I think it's still a very interesting part, because if you're a founder of something, then or I don't know, the CEO of something or whatever, it's kind of logical that you are being married to that brand or company in public perspective, right? Whatever they do is you, whatever you do is they, whatever. But what if you work there? What if it's a big company? Do you think that your personal activism and beliefs should be engaged in any way to your job? Could you get fired for?
You definitely
no, but like, you can get fired for saying something stupid to a client, but that's during work. I'm talking like outside of work. if you have a company that doesn't engage in brand activism at all and is super neutral, but you as a person could be found at the Black Lives Matter, what was it, like a get together, or how do you call that? Like
protest?
Protest, exactly. And there's content about it, and you're active for 4 or 5 causes you believe in, but the company isn't. That's going to be a very interesting discussion in the future.
I know of a friend of mine who actually got fired because she went to Dam Square last year.
Really?
Yes. And she was fired because they said that it was irresponsible because she was working in hospitality, and they were closed, of course, for, well, you know exactly how long, for like, what was it, 5 weeks or 2 months or 3 months? 5 weeks
longer, yeah.
By that time, and they had just opened, and
I believe it was openings day. It was the 1st of June, right?
Yeah, but I think she worked 2 days after the Dam Square protest, and then she told them that she went and she got fired on the spot because they thought it was very irresponsible. But I don't know.
Is that enough grounds to fire someone?
I don't think so.
That's a very interesting
But at the same time, do you
discussion,
still want to work there if that's why you're fired?
No,
and do you think she got fired for that? That is also a question.
Well, she worked there for a long time, and she was really good friends and stuff, but they were so disappointed in her that she went and kind of threatened the... I don't know, like for me it always felt like it wasn't the real reason.
Then it sounds like she got fired due to COVID and not fired because it was a BLM protest.
Yeah, true.
It could have been any protest she went to.
Yeah, but I found
fired.
that was the reason, officially the reason, because she was irresponsible. But for me, it was like, I always felt like if you were as activist as she was, or as I am, or anyone here maybe, then you understand why she had to be there, no matter, like the reasons. Because I think, like, my sister-in-law was there with me, and the day after she's like, yeah, I feel so irresponsible for going, and I was like, no, fuck this. This is bigger than, like what we're up against, and this is what we feel. And I think then if the people that she worked for would have understood that, they wouldn't have fired her. They'd be like, okay, maybe
I think it's very interesting. Technically, also because we're sitting in the Filling Pieces flagship store, which is located
a couple meters,
50 meters or 80 meters from where all of this happened, and that is the moment in time of the last year where I could friend or defriend someone for content. Just looking at it and seeing what kind of reactions you put under. It's one of these discussions where you just pick sides.
Yeah, or the performative black square, right? Because that was also like...
Yeah, but I mean, a lot of people didn't really understand what that was about. And they were just trying to join, which is something else. But to me, it's like the Black Pete or Sinterklaas discussion, right? That just unveils whoever I need to unfriend automatically. Oh, yeah, okay, cool. We are so different from each other. We do not stand for the same things and as a person, and therefore it's quite easily for me to distinctively say, hey, those are my friends and that's my tribe. That isn't my tribe anymore. And I think that's a really good thing, but I also think that could be very polarizing every now and then, where we should...
tribalism is polarizing, right?
Sorry?
Tribalism is polarizing.
Yeah, that definitely is polarizing, but I think if we are growing into a place where more and more activism takes place, then we are sharing more and more values and belief and all types of top-level stuff, which just could socially end up...
I have an interesting one because I just read a really interesting article about this. Michael Jordan, very famous, very wealthy black sportsman. He never, number 23, anyone? He never wanted to say anything about his political beliefs. And he was forced many times by the community. They were like, come on, take a stance. And he never wanted to because he said, there's enough people voting Republican and they still buy sneakers, and I want to sell as much sneakers as possible. And you can say all you want about that, but what he did do is he paved the way by being a great businessman. And I would do it differently for sure, but he paved the way for a lot of other black athletes, then making lots and lots more money than prior to when he started. And also he paved the way, I think, for a lot of other successful black entrepreneurs, because he really, he did that. He paved the way for a lot of entrepreneurs anyway. But I think that is an interesting one because that was his kind of space and his goal, and that's what he
Yeah.
needed to achieve. And he didn't want to have those distractions to kind of keep him small. I mean, not saying that I agree with that, but that was his belief, right? And so I think there's also, coming back to authenticity, I think it's something that has to fit you as a person. And if it doesn't fit you as a person because you have another higher goal or whatever, that should also be okay, I think. But time and space.
I mostly think that, Jordan is a very, very hard example for this, but most entrepreneurs get outgrown by their business.
Yeah.
And we need to accept that. That you could be an absolute, plus money changes people, time changes people. If we take all of this, for instance, the Tommy Hilfiger at Oprah debacle when I was young,
yeah.
You would see Tommy Hilfiger in every hip-hop video on earth. He sits at Oprah saying, I really don't want that demographic wearing my stuff.
Yeah.
I really don't think back then that he had any clue what was going to happen based on that remark.
No.
Right? The world was on fire. Later on, it happened. We were discussing Jay-Z a lot, right?
It happened with Cristal as well, the
Exactly,
champagne brand.
the Cristal champagne brand,
Yeah.
which was great for Jay-Z as he started his own brand and banked $300 million on the back of someone being
A
racist.
dick. Yeah.
So that's kind of an interesting point in time. I think that it could outgrow you as a company, because right now Hilfiger's back.
Yeah, but it
Because
took a while though.
Yeah, but Hilfiger isn't about Tommy Hilfiger anymore. It used to be.
They
It
just
was
fly
his
him in
brand, it
every
was
now and
his
then.
thing, it was whatever. Now, Hilfiger's just a brand.
Yeah.
Dutch owned.
Is it?
Also,
Yes.
but I think that's an interesting thing where you become a bystander, or even
Those old
Jordan is way
colonizers
too
and what-
intertwined with him because he is also a brand and he's a legend and an icon.
And he's the
or whatever.
logo as well.
He's-
Like,
And he's the logo and everything,
Yeah.
but the Jordan brand is way bigger than just Jordan, I believe, by now.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
But to get back to the question, I think a poster example is Colin Kaepernick, right?
Yeah.
If you consider
Yeah.
American football team as a business, and he got,
Oh, that's a business.
Okay,
Yeah.
exactly. So
Yeah.
and he got dropped, and then but on a in an ugly way, and he never got back to it. But he still stood by his values, stick to his values.
But the article was about that. So they said, because what Michael Jordan did, they said Colin Kaepernick was then still fine to stand by his beliefs because Nike backed him up. And now he has, like a foundation and everything. But the article was really interestingly
But that
written.
was later, right? Colin Kaepernick did it first, and then later Nike stood by him.
The reveal was later.
Yeah, the reveal was later. Yeah.
But the deal was
Yeah,
before.
yeah. So that was actually in the same article. They said if maybe someone like Jordan didn't pave the way, maybe then for him it wouldn't have been as easy to kind of take this stance. And then there's also a difference. I think the football, was it the I know NBA, but then what is football
NFL?
league? NFL, exactly. Yeah. They're also a lot more conservative, and then the NBA is also a lot more.
Is that then counter activism? Because Kaepernick, well, he didn't stand for something. He kneeled for something.
Yeah.
But then, NFL mostly white-owned teams, different cultures and different places and
They're
different
not very
histories
progressive.
and whatever. You could say that they showed brand activism of themselves. It could be wrong, huh? I mean, it is wrong, but.
Oh, I think there was definitely brand activism there.
From the NFL towards...
From the
but
other
also
side,
from and also towards.
We're big in Texas, so fuck it. We need
Yeah, I think so for sure. I think I wouldn't call it brand activism. I don't think they would call it that, but it's lobby or whatever you want to call it, or pleasing
lobby,
their. I think they're pleasing the people that basically support them, the football supporters, the ones that are buying the tickets. They're just pleasing the majority of that.
This
I guess.
is an interesting. You've done it twice. Like you. You switched it around. You did it with the yogurt scenario first, and now you've done it again. So I'm curious, because you switched it back. How does it feel when he reverses it, like from the NFL towards the social injustice that Colin Kaepernick stood for? Because why did you?
Why do I? No, I think it's interesting to have all those perspectives, because I think that's also when you said about, hey, like I defriended people after a BLM. I think that's also something that I really wanted to do, but at the same time,
let me get that super straight. I didn't I didn't befriend people because of BLM. Yeah. I actually befriended them because of their reaction to it.
Towards,
And actually the unveiling of their comments and character.
Exactly.
Right? It was the other side of it.
Yeah. So you saw people's true colors in that sense. Mm-hmm. No, so I do understand that, but I also then I sometimes find it a little bit dangerous to kind of stop talking to people who think like that, because then it takes so much energy and I really don't enjoy it and I get super frustrated and angry. But at the same time, if you stop talking, like where will they? Who will? I think there's a major difference here.
That's a good point. I think that's a good point. Sorry.
Yeah, well, there is, but there's a really, really big difference between not following something and having it in my timeline every day.
No, I know.
Versus
of
not
course.
talking to someone. So I'm always open to any discussion in any person.
Yeah.
It's just that in a
but
world where I get
culture.
so much content a day, I cherry pick and curate what I watch because I'm not interested in that. And I think every perspective does that. Every person does that. Every company does that.
But also the language barrier of, like, for instance, social media. You can't really have a proper conversation through the comments or whatever. So I understand that as well.
Also, but it was more about, I can't handle this amount of people that I know. I can't follow everyone.
No.
That would just dilute my attention. So there's no point. And so I was like, hey, we came to a point in life apparently where you think this is important and I think this is important.
Yeah.
I don't have to follow your daily moves anymore, but you can still call me.
Yeah.
You're still a person to me. I think it's interesting. And the reason I switch things is because I think at the end we're only going to solve any of this if we understand each other's behavior.
Yes.
And to do so,
and feelings and emotions. And
we need to try and get their perspective of things. Like, why are they doing this? What are they feeling? What are they trying to do? Is it on purpose? Is it not? Is it something they got taught? Is it something they think is normal? Is it whatever? So it's not just talking to them and having a conversation. It's also trying to figure out. It's the same thing as doing marketing, right? You take a cool brand, you grab a product and you give it a message to make it resonate. I think to do so, the only way of doing so is to understand the target group that is looking at the product.
Yeah.
And in this case, it's the same. I think brand activism, or at least the topic of brand activism, could be seen as a product that needs to be sold to as many people as possible. And to do so, and to market that, you really need to understand the target group or it's going nowhere.
Mm-hmm. I think it's dope that you're doing that, because obviously it's as a people, if we want to move forward, then we have to talk to each other and try to understand each other, because at the end of the day, I don't believe that people are evil necessarily.
Inherently bad, no.
Exactly. So, but to connect with anyone, even if it's someone that doesn't have the same beliefs as you have or the opposite beliefs, it's more progressive to try and understand them, and then from their perspective, formulate or maybe find ways to move towards that person, and then try to. The social injustice that you see, try to solve that together, because at the end of the day, we are one people.
Yeah, we just need to get closer to each other.
Exactly.
Hey, I want to do some lightning rounds with you, if that's okay. Just
lightning rounds?
Yeah, so I'm going to ask you a simple question, which should have like a single sentence or a word as an answer. Let's figure out some fun stuff. I think it's kind of cool.
Let me take a drink.
Yeah. And we get Akaar to talk as well.
Yeah, exactly. I'm trying to get at least one word out of it. Yeah, one more. Kidding. So if you had to pick one topic to set up brand activism for, what would you choose?
I mean, it's clear, right? Football.
But is football in general, that's not something, is it equality, gay rights, football? Is that a topic?
No, but the thing is with football that it's so intertwined. Like even something as gay rights can play a part in football as well.
No, I understand the industry you're in, but my question is, like, if you had to pick one topic,
a social topic.
You're in the world of football.
Yeah.
If you only had one topic to pick and be, an activist for that topic, what would it be?
I think equality.
Equality.
Yeah.
Cool. And for you?
Intersectional environmentalism.
Jesus, could you put that in a sentence?
Intersectional environmentalism.
There you go. What does that mean if you
don't know?
clue? Yeah.
It's it's the intersection of the environment and social justice. Because for me, it all comes from the same issue. So if you zoom out, now it's seen as two separate issues. And this is where it kind of meets. And I think both, if we only treat both separately, you're just treating symptoms, where I think you should go to the root of the problem. And I think capitalism is a part of that. Colonialism, I think a lot is to be able, we can chase back to that. And
so as a marketeer and an entrepreneur who made products and services and whatever, they always say the easiest way something can grow to a real big size is for it to be as simple as possible.
yeah, this is not so simple.
This is exactly the opposite. Right?
Yeah.
So choosing that is also a known choice that's a really tough battle.
Yeah.
Right? Having conversations about this at that level with these words is for a lot of people already too much.
True.
Is there also...
But you can also brand it, because I think 10 years ago people didn't know what sustainability was or social justice. So I think it's also about branding, things that I care about.
Talking about branding, I would agree, but that word is too long to brand it.
Yeah.
Right? What would you call it? If you had to dumb it down and make it...
You can say...
You took an umbrella, but
Yeah.
basically you'd have to dissect it and then...
I mean, it's still
There's like
about
20
equality.
topics.
It's still about equality.
Here we go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Equality, I'm not going to...
Everyone's on equality.
Everyone's on equality.
That's interesting.
But I understand what she says, because it's all intertwined, so it's all influenced by each other. And if you say equality, then equality has to do with socioeconomic equality, but also human rights. Also, basically, that's a bigger umbrella. If you don't want to pick one, because all of them are important. So, equality.
Yeah, because I think the funny thing is when people think about environmentalism, they think about, oh, we have to save the earth, but it's about saving humankind.
Is it?
Yes.
Why?
Well, I think it's best for the world or for the earth if we don't survive. But if we want to, if we want future generations to have, somewhat of a livable condition, then we need to start working on that now or yesterday, but not tomorrow.
Or maybe fly to the moon and create another civilization.
Exactly.
For self-preservation as well. Okay. And if you had to name your absolute favorite company when it comes to brand activism, doesn't matter if you named it before, it is...
Nike.
Nike?
It's like Patagonia or Ben & Jerry's.
Pick one.
Patagonia.
I would say Ben & Jerry's then.
There you go.
You made it
Then
easy.
we at least have three
and
different
I
ones.
like the product as well,
Yeah,
And liking
true.
the product, yeah. I love the fact that it's so layered. So they're fighting actually your fight on 16 different places at the same time about plant-based foods and capitalism and equality and everything's going on.
Yeah.
And still, in some genius way, they get it together.
Product
in
that
one
is
brand.
yummy.
Yeah.
And the product is wowzers. Yeah.
What I
Yes.
like about them as well, when you go into their website, you can see what their values are and what they believe in and what they stand for. So when it comes to racial injustice, human rights, policing, it's on there, and they formulate why it's important. They do more than just the regular brands.
But you know about the yummy, I'm sure you know this because I think you're like a...
Why it's so tasty?
Yeah, why it's so tasty, but I want to know if he knows.
Okay.
Do you know why it's so tasty?
No, because it's I don't know.
So you have Ben & Jerry, right?
Yeah.
And one of them has like an issue, his taste buds don't work, don't really
Yeah, he tastes
function.
like 20% of what you taste.
Yeah. And he only wanted, he only approved the flavor if he could taste it, like if he thought it was good, tasting good. And that's why it's so like...
Versus the competition, they put in like 4 times more.
That's a good USP.
400% of the ingredients.
Yeah.
I need 4 times more strawberries to taste the strawberry. I need 4 times more chocolate.
Yeah.
And so that's why their product is so chunky and filled with
Chunky
with toppings.
Monkey is my favorite.
Ah, nice.
There you go. That's an interesting thing. I wonder if you want to play this game. What's a really bad example? Name a company. Let's do the other way around. We'll start here. You don't get time to think. Let's go. Who sucks? Put it on the table.
I don't want to bash any company.
It's not bashing. Who could use help? You know,
Who could use help?
who could use a little help?
It's funny because like
Nikki.
since
Oh, Nikki, yeah, that's a good point.
What's
That's
Nikki?
a good
What's
point.
Nikki?
Nikki Plessen?
Okay.
She came with her inclusive cosmetics in 5 shades,
Yeah, and then someone said, but look at Rihanna. She has...
52 shades.
Interesting. Yeah, so she could use help. Okay.
Well, Shell can use help. Who could use help?
Doing what? We all know Shell could use help.
Closing their
Which
business.
department would you use?
The whole freaking business, man.
Yeah.
Use all their money and invest it in, like, I don't know, solar energy or whatever, but just don't fuck up the world anymore.
Okay. It would be great if it was such an easy solution, but is there one department or one thing where you say, well, they came out and they did this? I remember
They had a. I
the
remember
bottle
with
campaign.
Oh my
Yeah,
god,
yeah.
the bottle campaign with Anna Nushin.
Yeah.
No, that wasn't
no,
good.
no, no, no.
No, that wasn't. That was.
Would you like
Greenwashing!
a crazy wild confession? Would you like a crazy wild confession?
You came up with the campaign?
No, I was in that campaign.
Oh,
really?
Yeah, I had no clue whatsoever. A friend of mine was doing the PR, and if you read, and this is quite an interesting thing, I'm someone who usually knows what's going on and knows the story behind everything or whatever. I just got an email saying, hey, we're doing a project where we're taking plastic out of the ocean and we're creating bottles with it for drinking water out of the tap. Right? That was basically the story, and then there was a whole bunch of content that I didn't really watch.
And you didn't see Shell anywhere.
Well, I did, but I was actually working with Shell, trying to figure out how they could change, because you must understand that if you close Shell, the
No,
world
I know.
implodes,
I know,
right?
I know.
It doesn't work. And so...
That's just my
No,
my fantasy.
Listen, I totally agree, but they have stuff that we could use, right?
I know.
They have infrastructure.
And they have a lot of patents. You know,
They have all of these
they
things.
bought the patent on or the copyright or whatever in 1920 for the electric car, and they've been having
There
it
you
in the fridge for
Really?
There you go. So
Yeah.
what is interesting is that there's a whole bunch of value there, right? There's a whole lot of money, a whole lot of infrastructure, international organization. There's a whole bunch of things. And now the question is, okay, how do we turn
would like
something super evil into something positive?
I would get the CEO from Greenpeace and make it CEO of Shell.
Really?
Do you think that would even work?
I think it would make the headlines for sure. No, but I think
What I think is
no.
interesting is
good PR.
the dynamics between this, right? So I think everyone has a dream and an opinion, and you're like, hey, this company sucks, or this topic sucks, or whatever type of thing. Let's solve it by, this is exactly what happens during the World Cup, where everyone thinks they're the bondscoach, right? They're the trainer of the country. But I think if we could also try to understand the business side of things, then you can actually figure out how to really solve it. And that's kind of an interesting thing. So I got to spend about, I think, 1.5 years with Shell trying to figure out, okay, what would happen if the whole world would drive electric? Yeah, what would happen with all the gas stations? What would happen with all the other infrastructure that they have? Do you turn it into shops? Do you make it pre-charged battery stations? Do you, how does this work? And it was kind of an interesting thing, because the brand is one thing, the company is another thing, but it would really surprise you that you, for instance, I know everyone's unique, but I think the people I worked with there on that topic within Shell were 100% your blood type.
I know, because I have a friend
100%
who
your
works
DNA,
there on
right?
the innovation kind of.
Because we need that
Yeah.
kind of thought
Yeah.
inside of a corporate business to solve these problems. It's the weirdest thing on earth. So there are real people who are activists for a lot of cool shit working for a company like Shell or anywhere else.
But of course,
because
if you
they
can,
have to.
but also if you can make an impact anywhere, like if you can impact anything there, then the impact will be huge, right?
Yeah,
Definitely.
definitely.
Because that's the thing. If you want to change the world, start with yourself. That's super great.
The only
Now, if you
thing-
really want to change the
Yeah.
world, go to the biggest
Evil bastard.
Just influencer of industry, right?
Yeah.
Whatever that means, and they're not always evil bastards. In this case, they are. But try to influence something insane. So what I really like, on the one hand, is here in Holland we have this commercial, right, that says if you want to improve the world, start with yourself.
Yeah.
And I think that's interesting. Also, Michael Jackson said it. But as a businessman, I look at things and I'm like, okay, if you want to improve the world, we need way more than just me recycling plastic.
But that's actually an old, the commercial not so much, but actually the whole idea of footprint, CO2, everything that we all know now and people are feeling guilty about, that's actually done by really good BP lobby, because BP once came out with like, as a consumer or as a human being, whatever, this is your footprint. So they kind of took the responsibility from companies and but they also took the responsibility of companies and kind of put it on people. It's like, hey, what is your footprint? Hey, what's your footprint?
Yeah.
To kind of distract from their responsibility, because in the end, like, we can do whatever we want, but if things really have to change, then Shell has to do something, Unilever has to do something, Coca-Cola has to do something. That's where
or girls. It's so weird
person.
How that is a person entity. I would also like to. I think I want to discuss Amsterdam before we wrap it up. Like, do you all live here?
Born and bred.
Born and bred. So you know the industry around. I think it's very interesting. We have fashion brands that are around for 8 years, 10 years. All these legends coming up and influencing my generation, the next generation, and generation after that. Like, who in Amsterdam only, in your personal life, did something you were proud of, where you're looking at it and say,
To be honest, my partner in crime, Akwasi.
That's okay.
Yeah.
You can be honest.
If it felt like weird to just drop that,
He's
also
in the room.
because
He's
he's in
making
the
eye
room.
contact.
No,
right
that's what I'm
now,
saying.
so.
No. But the thing is, like, we were blessed. We are blessed to do what we're doing right now because he had the guts to say what he said, and then he stood when. Like,
if you don't know this was a big discussion, right?
This
was a huge impact on media. It took days, weeks, months, even.
Yeah,
before this
exactly.
was resolved.
And then the thing whereby people were out to get him, but still alive and kicking and better than ever. So that's first and foremost is inspiring, and secondly, because he did that, he actually fueled the car that we're driving right now. So
that's a good choice.
Akwasi.
Who's your choice?
Yeah, I'm thinking really long and hard. And the funny thing is, this doesn't have anything to do with like sustainability or anything. But like, I grew up around the guys from Pata, and like that was my clique growing up. And I think it's super cool what they've done. I think that's maybe also paved the way for Filling Pieces or other brands.
In what way?
Well, just opening up the kind of street culture scene.
If you had to smash it down to like a word or one sentence, what is it that they stood for? For me, Pata always stood for like
friendship,
family and friendship.
Yeah, that's what it. Family and
community
friendship.
building, and definitely a time where that was
not a thing.
Visible. Well, it was a thing, but it was not visible.
No.
You could not see it in media. You could not see certain type of people in. On a poster or something like that, or as a model, you know what I mean? So I think,
and they always included everyone, like.
I think that is the funny thing about that is a lot of people also felt excluded by them trying to be inclusive.
Yeah.
Right?
True.
It's this weird thing that even if you do the right thing, you will always piss someone off.
Of course.
And that's okay. I think that's something that needs to land. Like, there's nothing that is 100%.
No, but when you're emotionally invested, it's difficult just to accept that it's okay.
That's why, from a business perspective, it's taking a distance and looking at it, and from a personal perspective, it's being emotional about it and driving whatever feeling you have to where you want it to be. Is there an example you could say?
Someone I look up to.
Yeah, or someone, something, or some company from Amsterdam that had effect due to their activism for something. They stood for something, and you're like, "Hey, this really touches me."
I think it's my brother.
Okay.
Like my brother, he's 3.5 years older than me, and he's just someone I look up to. I respect him very much, and like
Who's your brother?
his name is Maja, and he's a director from Amsterdam, and just seeing him making decisions, the decisions that he makes, and making the moves that he makes. He's a very strategic guy, and like he started out finishing a university and doing a master's, and then started like the usual route by doing internships, but he just became very, very like depressed from that. And after 3 months, he just decided, I'm going to do what I love, and that's making films. And to see him now like making really nice films, and like providing for himself and his family by doing something that he loves, is just really inspiring for me. And also, like, I only have one brother, and he chose his own path, which is, I'm gonna do what I love, and it also made it easier for me
To do what you love.
Exactly. For my parents, like, okay, we saw what your brother did. Maybe you can do it as well. If he didn't do it, I don't know if I would do it. You know.
Nice.
Yeah. So.
That's nice.
Nice, very nice.
Dope.
I forgot one big player in sustainability.
Okay.
Greenpeace. It's born and bred here, and they might not reach all the young people anymore. But I think they're so true to their
I
beliefs.
think it's a household brand
Yeah.
by
I think
now.
so, yeah.
So it's not surprising anymore.
Yeah.
It's maybe not buzzing anymore, but it definitely is part of
Yeah.
every conversation.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So I think that's another one that I'm super proud of.
Cool.
And you?
Oof.
Avocado Show.
Funnily enough, I do think we did a lot of things that inspired others, but I don't think it was from a brand activism type of thing. I think it was more of a branding or conceptual thing. But me as a person growing up, definitely one of the first things was also Pata. Actually, it was always almost fashion brands that did it. Even now, when we're sitting here, obviously, Filling Pieces is a brand, but actually Guillaume is a friend.
Mm-hmm.
And watching him incorporate where he's from and bringing that back all the time, even right now, you know, there's Unity
On the
for
wall.
Suriname on the wall. If you stand outside, there's this huge mural about the documentary they made. You know, and I think that's interesting and very powerful how he always did that. And I always saw the family when all the parties that were at the old head office, even the old head office, right, of Filling Pieces, those were legendary. That's where you saw boys become men, girls become women, and it was a safe space for a lot of people. And I think that is something that I almost took for granted, because for me, it was like, it's supposed to be this way.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I grew up. Like, all my friends are like this. It was always inclusive. It was always diverse. There was no, you know, it took actually quite some media to convince me how shitty it is when it isn't there, because I was so used to being that. And I love the fact that we've known each other for years, and that goes for the daily paper guys as well. And like beginning of this year, I was born and raised in Israel. So obviously I have family there, and there's all this kind of stuff going on. But I've left when I was about 4 or 5, and then every year some type of discussion from that place comes up, right? And this year was the year where it actually exploded. It got even bigger, and it was all about that. And I had a conversation with Hussein from Daily Paper, and I said, man, you always post everything you feel, even though you're, you know, an icon to a lot of people, you're a big entrepreneur to a lot of people. You feel free enough to post whatever you want on your Instagram stories, right? I said, I'm having a tough time because I feel that what is happening there is wrong. I feel that in every fiber in my body, so I want to do something about it. At the same time, I'm being followed by my family who live there, who I don't speak to about this topic, because why would you? If you only speak to each other twice a year, it's all about birthdays and whatever, you know? So I was like, I want to say something about this, but I don't know how to do it, and I'm having a tough time to do it. And he said something that stuck in my mind. He said, try to do the right thing if you feel it, and always choose the side of the suppressed. Or oppressed. Or
Oppressed.
oppressed. Always choose the side of the oppressed. I was like, yo, that's a very interesting way of looking at it, because the way I looked at it was like, yo, I'm from Israel, and then here's Palestine and a lot of stuff going on. And if you zoom out, there's only the oppressor and the oppressed.
Yeah.
And if you don't feel right about that, your body will tell you as a compass, right? It just rings a bell and says, no, man, this is wrong. No matter if you're born there, or no matter what you do. And to me, that was an interesting thing, because I grew up between all these multicultural people who now are in the spotlight, own brands, and do all this kind of stuff, where 10 years ago, everyone was political correct. I'm not getting involved in this. I'm not reposting this. I'm not doing anything of this. And now it's just like, we're free to do this because we stand for this. That's why we are so successful. I think Daily Paper's story like that. I think Filling Pieces has a story like that. And I'm very proud of all the brands that come from this little tiny village we call a city and the post stamp that is called the Netherlands. So with that, I would like to thank you all for your time and for your insights and sharing all these personal things. And I hope everyone enjoyed the talk about brand activism, and that we shed some light on whatever it is, or what is happening and how we're trying to do what's good and what's bad. Obviously, you can decide for yourself, but I really like this. Thank you for being part of the Filling Pieces Summer School, and good luck and enjoy the next episode.
Thank you.
Thank you for hosting this.